Right, tally ho there champs and welcome to the show. So let's see how this Alienware 13 games, and this is the Kaby Lake model of course, it's a new model, updated BIOS, latest graphics driver. First I'll have a look at some benchmarks and then I'll test it on GTA 5 where you can watch me play it. You can see the live frame rates and temperatures. Sometimes when you benchmark on GTA 5 you get wild frame rate variations, and that's just GTA 5. You look at the monitor and you'll see your GPU and CPU is not throttling, but you might get a drop in frames, and that's how GTA 5 is. So anyway, let's get on to the benchmark scores. Both the Firestrike and Time Spy stress test, it passed with over 98% on both of those tests. And I look at the temperatures while I've done the Time Spy torture test, and you'll see that at maximum 87 GPU and maximum 57 CPU. So temperatures are well controlled there. It got a Firestrike score of 9,882, Time Spy score of 3,709. Unigine Heaven, it got a score of 2,592, and that's 102.9 frames per second. That's 1080p high settings. So straight away you can see this thing has power. Comparing it to a desktop 1060 is not that far behind. It'll be a high single digit figure behind a 1060 desktop variant. Now let's get on to the game benchmarks. DSX Mankind, a title that is really hard on the system, getting 62.2 frames per second at high settings, so that's very good. GTA 5, 114 frames per second, a mix of ultra and very high settings there. Battlefield 1, virtually 80 frames per second at high settings, 79.5 it is. And Crysis 3, high settings 1080p, you're looking at 88 frames per second or 89 frames per second. So pretty much any title, 1080p, very high settings, you're going to be getting over 60 frames per second, well in excess of 60 frames per second. And on a really hard title like DSX, you're getting 60 frames per second. Now I only have the 1080p model. If you got the 1440p OLED model, you'd still be getting over your 60 frames per second high, very high, except for in this case DSX. You wouldn't get your 60 frames, you'd have to drop down the settings with DSX there. So let's have a look at me playing my awesome driving skills on GTA 5 and see how it plays in the real world. And yeah, my driving was terrible, but I was about 3 meters away because I had to sit behind the camera and I had the Xbox controller, and trying to see a 13-inch screen from 3 meters away, well, that's my excuse anyway. Yes, a 13-inch screen is small, but if you're right in front of it, it's fine. But yeah, sitting 3 meters back, it's not ideal. Right, tally ho, let's see how this little daddy Alienware 13 games. Okay, 1080p, very high settings, GTA 5. Here you have Riva Tuner or Afterburner, whatever the hell it is. First up here we have the GPU temp. It's already 91 degrees. This game has been going over 25 minutes at the moment. The ambient temperature in this room is over 30. So that's, I don't know, 90 degrees or something. GPU usage, GPU RAM used. This is the frames per second. The second one, CPU, temperature, and then CPU usage and RAM usage. So let's game. I'm going to put the microphone right next to the keyboard. So you can see it there. And let's see how she goes, and we'll have a look at the temps later, but you can already see them live there. And as I said, it's boiling in here. Can't wait to turn the air conditioner on. And you can hear the fans already. That's about as loud as they get. They're not too bad. him. So, GPU temp 89, CPU 87, getting over 100 frames per second. That seems just under 100 now. Be interesting to see if it's throttling. I don't think so. Whoa. Alright, so let's check the temperatures now. 89 degrees and 86 CPU. We're getting over 100 frames per second. Sorry about the driving. It is actually hard to see a 13-inch screen from around 3 meters back because obviously the camera's in front of the... Sorry, the camera's in front of the laptop there, so let's have a look. Now let's see what temperatures we're getting, or any throttling we're getting. Let's have a look. Now, whatever temperatures I'm getting, that doesn't mean you're going to get those temperatures. There's a lot of factors that go into what temperatures you get, and that's ambient heat here. In here it's over 30 degrees. Also, it just depends on how well pasted your CPU and GPU was. Someone may have been having a bad day. So, alright, GPU clock. Okay, so the lowest speed it was 1405. So that's not throttling at all. Down there, 1240. Now, that just seems like a hiccup. It doesn't seem like a consistent throttle in there. So it doesn't look like it throttles at all. Definitely not on the GPU side. They're normal speeds. And I doubt the CPU's throttling, because the CPU never really got that hot. Because if you look at the temperatures of the CPU, they're pretty much consistently under 90 degrees, so your high 80s. So I don't think there's any throttling there. So I think that's about it. There you have it. No throttling at all. Very demanding conditions in here. Very hot, over 30 degrees. Yes, the GPU does get hot. It gets into the 90s, the early 90s, but it's stable around 89, 90, something like that. And the CPU gets into the 80s, the high 80s maximum. So there's no throttling. And little daddy here games well. So I'll just wrap up my gaming review here. Give me a thumbs up if give me a thumbs up if this video was helpful. Got lots more tech content coming soon. I'd really like to thank you guys for watching. And until next time, guys, tally ho.